Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel today. I'm Kevin, and today we're back to our first word to speak. So yeah, it's been quite a long time since we skipped the English topic so that I could have time to do my stuff. But of course, today I have my free time. So we are going back to talk about the topic or the stories that will continue after the outplay, or you could say after Russia's out of the war. So with that things, the Germans had a million combat-ready soldiers to move to the Western Front, since the Russians, one of their most dangerous enemies, have left. So before the US troops could arrive in strength, the German commander decided to launch what they call a spring offensive. This means throwing everything they had into a series of desperate battles. Or you could say they are going to create a continuous and quick battles that they want to take as much as possible the advantage. I mean, as much advantage as possible. Okay, so that should be called the lightning strike. The Germans had spent the later part of the 1917 planning the offensive and training the men in a new tactic. Just before dawn on March 21, they began shelling the Allied lines with a devil's orchestra of roaring guns, as one soldier described it. The barrage lasted for 5 hours. Before the defenders could recover, the groups of German infantry started appearing out of the morning fog. These were stormtroopers, elite soldiers armed with light machine guns, flamethrowers, and many other kinds of weapons. Some is have the explosive power, such as grenades, and sometimes even flash for the cover. They look for weak points in the defensive positions that has been made by the artillery attack earlier. Always advancing, Allied soldiers soon found themselves cut off from each other and outflanked by the wave of regular German troops that coming continuously and following the first assault force. The Allied line totaled along an 80 kilometers, or you could say 50 miles from the front line, forcing them to retreat as the Germans pushed closer to Paris and threatened the Channel ports. Allied politicians decided the troops need decisive leadership to deal with the crisis that has been made by the enemies. So they appoint a new commander, French General Ferdinand Foch, as overall commander to coordinate the actions of the Allied forces to keep their country safe. By April, the British were fighting for their life against ferocious German attack. Sir Douglas Haig sent his soldiers, what became known as his back to the wall soldiers. I mean, back to the wall order, sorry. So, his words is every position must be held to the last man with our backs to the wall. And that is the name of the others back to the walls. This name which means he asked the soldiers to always face their backs to their country's walls, or you could say their homeland, and protect it until the last man. He was asking his men for one last heroic effort, and it worked, which is the asking and the order of the back to the fall order. Yeah, it's another order that hope the soldiers to create the effort to, even when they're scared, even when they don't really want to face their backs to the wall, they still fight. And he asked because sometimes, at that time, maybe people will get fear and they might run. But with those order, when you deliver the information that you want to tell them in a meaningful way, or in a, let's say, oh yeah, meaningful, but yet is heart touching way. Maybe sometime their fears will fade away and they are willingly stay back to do what you say. Not just because for you, but because of the ideas because of the futures or the meaning that your words gave them. This is for people who don't know why there is some order that have the name of it, but some didn't. So under the general fought overall command, French, American, British, and Italian troops fought to victory at the Second Battle of the Marne in July. The spring offensive further, and the Germans went into retreat. They had captured land, enemy guns, and thousands of prisoners, but they had advanced too quickly. They had no artillery support and few supplies. Britain, after that, getting through the U-Port blockade by organizing the American ships into the convoys protected by destroyer escorts. But the Royal Navy's blockage has against, the Royal Navy blockage against Germany was stronger than ever. So there were food storage in German cities, and the army didn't have enough meat or fresh produce to feed their men. German troops were so hungry that when they back into the cities, they stopped their attack to loot. I mean, they stopped their attack when they got into the British cities. And because of what I said before, the quick yet few supplies, so that the Germans, when they make the spring offenses, they don't really have enough supplies, food, and armor to keep fighting for a long time. And that's why they call it the spring offensive. The meaning of that, which means that this thing is an offensive or spring, and it will going to be very, very fast. Alright? So after that, when the Germans had taken advantage of the land and the cities, they get into the enemy cities, they're taking food, they're trying to loot allied dugouts and food tents, charging themselves on fresh bread, eggs, and wine. On August 8th, the Allies broke through the German line at Amiens, prompting General Ludendorff to describe it as a black day of his army. By September, his troops were retreating to the Hindenburg Line, the defensive position they had held the year before. Exhausted and malnourished, thousands of them fell prey to a deadly flu virus, and the people who fell here is Germans. It could kill a man overnight and would sweep around the world later that year. But disease was only one of the dangers they faced. The Allies were preparing another massive attack on their own on the spring offensive team, and that is shortly how that this event goes. About the spring offensive, about the orders, or you could say the famous orders from the Allies, which named back to the war, and also about how that the French general take his lead and let America, Italian, American Italian troops and the others gain back the advantage and fight against the quick and massive, yet in a short time offense from the Germans. And that is also all I want to talk with you guys today. Thank you for listening. And yeah, even when I talk a little bit too fast, but I'll see you guys in my next video. So see you then. Bye bye.